to my channel. This channel is all about Unreal for new and intermediate developers. Check it out and see if there's anything of use to you. This channel is driven by you as viewers, so please leave your comments below. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to the series Let's Get Cooking. This is part 2. We're going to continue on with the setup and hopefully try and keep this one a little bit shorter because I'd like to get on to our first pickup and on-screen messaging. So without further ado, let's get going. Okay, so last time we did the setup, we made a few folders with interfaces, blueprints, data, effects, so on and so forth. You can make them up beforehand like I do, or you can go ahead and make them as we go, but that's your choice. Okay, so first of all, we're just going to make up a few base actors, because at the moment, if we look at our world settings, we're using the first person game mode and all of its settings. We want to make this our own, so let's go ahead and do that. But to do that, we need a few blueprints. So in our blueprints folder, I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call it core blueprints. Going for a minute. I do apologise for if I cough. I've had a bit of a cough recently. I'll try to pause the video if I have a coughing fit. Okay, so in here, we're going to go ahead and make quite a few actors. Some we're going to add information to, others we're not. So, blueprint class, first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a player controller. And we're going to call this PC for player controller, underscore, and then I always just call it this, the name of my project. The next one we're going to make is another blueprint class. I'm going to go through these fairly quickly, so you may have to pause to get them. It's in game mode and GM. For game mode, underscore, again, crazy cooking, that's what I call the project. And we're going to make another one. Now these ones we have to search for. So it's going to be game instance. You choose the top one. Let's select that. And GI for game instance. How I name them. Auto save, thank you. GI underscore. And again, crazy cooking. And the next one we're going to make, another blueprint class. Again, we search for is HUD class. I will in a moment go through why we use these. Let's select that one. And HC for HUD class, underscore, and again, crazy cooking. Oop. Didn't look like. And I think that might be all. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. And then the last thing we're going to make is we're going to go into our blueprint in our list here. And we're going to select a blueprint function library, second one down from me. I'm going to call it BPFL underscore, again, crazy cooking. You can call it what you like, up to you. Okay, so sanity, save everything, so we don't have to do it all again. Function library is going to be functions that we're going to want to call to make our life a little bit easier, where we can call from any blueprint within our game. Game instance is the first thing that gets loaded up during the loading process, and it's the last thing that dies when we close the game. So anything we need to be persistent, we use the game instance for. The game mode is what sets a lot of the other things, like which character you're going to use, player controller, so on and so forth. HUD class is basically it's a class that controls the heads-up display. This is where, again, with a little help to make it a little bit easier with a function we're going to put in our blueprint function library, we can access anywhere. So anything that we want to do with our main HUD UI, we put in there, including starting up the HUD UI. Player controller does exactly what it says in the tin. It's what controls our player. It's what handles our controls. So this is what will load up our input mapping and allow us to control our character. So let's start with the game mode. Now here in the game mode here, we're not going to worry about anything down this side. And I'm just going to bring this over just to make life a little bit easier. We have game session class, we leave that as it is. Game state class, we'll leave it as player controller class. We made our own. We could choose our own. Player state, again, we're going to leave it. HUD class, again, we choose our own. Default pawn class, we will change that soon, but we haven't actually got our default pawn yet. So we'll leave that as default pawn. And the rest of it, we leave. Okay. This is also where you could do things like, if you were playing a game that you needed your mouse to be on the screen all the time, you can have that showing all the time. Should be in here. If I type in mouse, it'll probably show you. Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry, that's in settings, is it? Parent class game mode, mouse. Yeah, have they moved it? Oh, sorry, we were in the game mode, not the player controller. My apologies, I'm being a bit dense this morning. It is early here. Okay, so that's all we need to do in here for now. We will come back and add our other ones shortly when we've made them. So we can make sure we save it, file and save it, go ahead and close that. Now, we're not using that at the moment, so let's go ahead and use it. But before we do that, I think it's best to make our character, because there's some things in the base Unreal character we're not going to be using, so let's make our own character. And it's always good practice to make your own character. Then if you do any changes in that character, it's not going to affect the base one. You've always got something to fall back upon. So let's go back to our blueprint folders. We're going to add a new folder. We're going to call it character. Simple. Now this is going to be relatively simple because we're not doing anything specific about it. We're just basically duplicating our third-person character. So let's look, I keep saying third, I mean first. We'll look for our first person in our hierarchy. Find the first person character. In your left here, scroll to where you can see your character folder. Drag and drop it over here and put copy here, not move, copy. Okay. And you see here, they've got a first-person controller, first-person game mode, and first-person camera manager. We possibly will be playing with the camera manager later and making our own. But for now, we're not going to bother. Okay, so we're going to leave that there for now. Go back to our characters folder. Here's our blueprint list. So let's rename him. And we're going to call him BP Chef. Why not? Okay, we can see it's still parent class of character, but it's got all our information in. If you open him up, in that viewport, it still works the same. Okay, so it still uses the same controller. Now, if we go into our game mode again, so go back to our blueprints, back to our core blueprints, and game mode, and our default pawn class we're now going to set to BP Chef. Now we're going to go into our edit project settings, go to maps and modes. Okay. And you see the first thing is default game mode. We're going to use our game mode, okay? And also go right to the bottom here, it says game instance. We're going to use our game instance. So that sets the project up. But there are overrides on this already. So if you look here in the game modes, it's got here game mode override is overridden to that. Now if we put none, I believe it uses our own. I've never really tried that. So we've got nothing because we've got no player controller, which if we use our game mode, I believe we're still going to get the same. So we've got nothing. So we'll go back and test that in a minute. Why is it not moving? Well, we got nothing because the player controller is empty. And this is where we're going to change things up a little bit. Okay, so first thing we need to do is go back to our blueprints. So yeah, crazy cooking folder, find our input folder. We're going to add our own inputs. We have an input action. We're going to think what we're going to need. We're going to have IA underscore interact. Okay. Make sure you save it. I press enter, so I did that. I'm going to duplicate it. We're going to be IA toggle recipe book. I think for now that's all we're going to need. Let me just double check my base project. Oh no, there are two more. So let's just duplicate it. Go ahead and duplicate again. I'm going to call this IA underscore left click. Actually, there should be three more which I haven't done, but we'll do that in a moment. And duplicate again. IA right click. And there's one more. Let's duplicate one. And it's going to be IA. Oh, go. So we got those. Okay, so let's save all those. Also, to save reinventing the wheel, if we go to, we need one more thing. So if we look for the input in the Unreal folders, we've got these two things called context mappings. Yeah? Mapping context. The default one, we're going to drag over to our folder and copy it. Why do all the work? It's already done there. We'll copy here. go to our input folder again, and there it is. Let's rename it IMC for input mapping context. We're going to call it Crazy Cook. This one we're going to open up because we need to implement our new items. Now, if we look here, pretty basic. We have mappings. We've got jump, move, and look. Our basic settings. So let's add another one. Now, we'll only let you add one at a time. Let's start with interact. Now, if we press a little button there, click on the keyboard, and press your interact key. I'm going to use E. And that's all we have to do for that one. There's something we have to do in the look in a moment, and I will go to that in a moment. Let's add them all first. Next one we're going to do is our left click. Then click the little keyboard, then left click your mouse. That simple. We're going to add one more LEA right click. Add two more. Then click that. Right mouse button. Done. And we're going to add the last one that we made up. Oh no, we made up two more, didn't we? Okay, so we're going to say our toggle recipe book. And we're going to, I'm going to use tab for that like you would normally use for an inventory in a survival game. But again, up to you what key you use. And the very last one is IA scroll. Now this one, we have to sort of look for. So look down, so instead of clicking the keyboard, we're going to click where it says none. Look for mouse. We want the mouse X, Y to the axis. And as I said, we have something to change in the IA look. Let's just back these off here for a moment. So we're only working one at a time. IA look. You see it's set up for gamepad and thumb. Okay. In fact, I've given you the wrong information for that. I'll change that in a moment. So we're going to change this to mouse. This is the mouse XY axis. Like so. Let's go back and change the scroll. My apologies on the scroll. You want the mouse wheel axis. Okay. You could do a separate one for up and down, but I find this works perfectly well. Leave it at that. Okay, so back to our IA look, we do have to do something in here a little bit different. So under modifiers, you see it's got a dead zone from the previous thumbstick. We're going to change that to a negate. And we're going to only negate the Y-axis. So look for your Y-axis, uncheck the other two, make sure your Y is kept checked. That just makes sure everything's the right way around. Okay, so we've got that set up. Let's implement that. So how do we implement it? Where do we implement it? Well, that's what our controller is for. So if we open up our player controller, I'm just doing this on my F1. I don't want to show you anything wrong. We'll go back to our blueprints, core blueprints, player controller, and it's empty. Okay, it's an empty folder. We can get rid of rent it for now. We don't need that. Okay. So we're going to add a few nodes. First node we're going to add is a branch. You drag up there, press B while still holding your left mouse button, and you get your branch. And we're going to say is local. This is just a check. Is local player controller. This is a check. This is it's using the correct one if there's a review on a multiplayer. Then we're going to right click in some blank space and we're going to look for enhanced, input local enhanced input local subset. I think it's the one here. Yeah, I believe it's no, it's not this one. There's a choice of two, and I always get the wrong one. Enhanced local. You just want one with only one pin. We don't need the 2 pins. And quite simply, off of here we drag add mapping context. So, I know blue pin to a yellow pin looks a bit strange, but that's how it is. Okay, so in here, the only thing we have to put in here, we're going to choose our Crazy Cook. Compile. Okay. So now basically what this does, it tells the player controller to use this mapping context to use all those controls. So does our player work? Let's play it now, and we see our player works perfectly fine. We've got a jump, we can look up, down, left, right, round and round, walk, turn left, turn right. So that's our player functioning as normal. And just a little test. This is a little bit off of piece for me. I've never tried it with just putting none, seeing if it handles it from the other one. Yes, it does. So you can go ahead and put none there. But we've got all our own. Obviously, things like our interact key and our toggle key do nothing because we've got no code for them. But the rest of the code is handled in the play. So let's go back to our player. There's a few things in there we don't need, so let's clean it up a little bit. Back to our player. Open up our BP Chef. You can go ahead and change meshes. I've got the first game I showed you on the first intro. I've changed the mesh. Up to you if you would like me to show you how to do that in the new Unreal 5 with the true third person, so it's using 2 full meshes instead of just arms. Then, you know, let me know because you see it's using no skeletal mesh there. It's using Manny there, okay? But let me know and I will make a video for you. Okay, so we're going to get a few complaints when we do this. So target UI touch, we're going to delete that, we don't need that. We're going to go to our class settings, BP touch interface, we're going to get rid of that and say no. Now if we compile it, it's probably going to throw up an error, or surprisingly not. So let's go into our event graph. Secondary thumbstick, well, I'm not worrying about thumbsticks in this game. Mouse look, we're not using, just using look, which is this one. Okay, so that cleans that up nicely. Input, these two are perfectly fine. We're not using these. That. And I believe that's all there is to it. So again, just do a double check, make sure everything works fine, and jump works. And move forward, move back, move left, move right, and look around, look up, look down, look left. It all works nice and fine. Good. That's our player setup for basic start of the game. So let's go and add a few more items for setup. Okay, let's save it. Make sure we save it. I'm going to make sure saving the file on success on, so it should have saved it. I don't know why it didn't. Okay, we've got one unsaved here, and it's a level. Okay, so we'll save that because we made that change. Okay, we can go ahead, close the player controller, we don't need it. Close the game manager. We've made sure we've set our chef as pawn. Make sure that's saved, we don't need it. As chef at the moment, we don't need a game base. we don't need at the moment. We're going to be making some extra things. We can always open them again. Let's keep it nice and clean. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add a couple more interfaces. Okay, let's go back to our blueprints folder, our interfaces folder. We've got GameBase and Interact. Okay, we're going to right click, find our blueprints, blueprint interface. I'm going to DPI underscore and we can player. And we're going to duplicate that. Because it's empty, we can go ahead and duplicate it. And this is the last one for now, for today. I'm going to call it HUD. Okay. And that's it. Let's save them. Okay, so let's look at the HUD. In the HUD, we are going to open this up. And we're going to add 3 functions. And first of all, we're going to go set. I call it a dot because it's a dot, but if you're going to use a crosshair, call it a crosshair, whatever you like. Set dot color. And we're going to, there's inputs on this. We've got to be careful. So let's add these inputs. So the first input we're going to add is has item in hand. Question mark. It's a ball. Next one is also a ball. And we're going to say active. Let's say activate. Again, question marks. It's a ball. And we're going to put an output. This is really just to make things neat when we implement this later. Okay. And we're going to say HUD class ref. And that's of type HUD. HCB HUD. All in capitals up here. Object reference. Compile and save that. Our next one is relatively simple, called add message to HUD. This is going to help us with our, all this is for our messaging system, which we will implement possibly next video. No inputs for this one, but it has an output. And the output, sorry. So it has one input, no outputs. The output isn't called actor, and it is an actor base class of with everything in the game. So I'm done. Then the last one, which definitely has no inputs or no outputs. This is going to be quite simple. Remove message from HUD. Okay. And that's all it is for that one. Make sure you compile, say, close. The next one we're going to do is our interact. I think we've done. We did that last time. Let's close that. I'm pretty sure we did on the game base. Yes, we did in the game base. We can go ahead and close that. So the last one to do is the player. So let's open that up in my system. The player has a few, and they're really just helper. so that we don't have to keep passing to our planner. So the first one is called set item in hand. So this basically will set the item that we picked up, and we're going to have one input. I'm going to call it actor ref, because we're going to pass it as what the actor is. We call it item ref, whatever. And we're going to make this our base class. You look for BPP base. Okay. This one, the next one has no inputs or outputs. So this is just called grab item. Notice I compile every time. Have it I've got into make sure it saves. The next one is drop events, which I believe, again, no inputs or outputs. Okay, this one seems a bit odd, and it's a long name, but you'll see the reason why as we go to our pickup system. We're going to add a new function again. We're going to say give anchor point mesh and scene component, because the way the system works for stuff later on down the line, we need to be able to know what both of these are. No inputs, but it has some outputs. First one is anchor point mesh. And this is of type static mesh. Now make sure you choose the static mesh component, not the actor. Static mesh component. Okay. I know I sounded a little bit maybe condescending there, but it's an easy mistake to make. And yes, I have made it and wondered why I can't connect anything to it and what's going on. And the last input output is anchor point, and this is a theme. You can look for again theme component. I'll save that. Okay, this one we're not probably using for quite a while yet, but let's put it in anyway. Set pouring. Well, I think we use it in the pickup anyway, but it's not really doing anything. And that has an input. It's called is pouring. And it is of type booleans. Make that a bit better. COURING question mark. And the very last one, which is one that we'll be using straight away, is give, or maybe when we do the pickup, not straight away, give physics handle. And it has an output, and it's called physics handle. Or you can just call it handle, whatever you like. And this is of type, you guessed it, physics, first volume, physics handle component. Okay. I'll save. And that is a job done on that one. So let's also do a little bit of housekeeping here. Click on your first one here, in default here, type in player. And then we'll go down the list and we'll add them all to the player category. It just makes it a little bit neater. I think I showed you this last time. So we have got everything all muddled up together. It doesn't matter in fact the way things work. So if you forget, it doesn't matter. It just makes things a little bit easier to follow. And also let's open up our game base. I didn't do it in there. And we're going to click on the first one and let's double click it so we get our list up here. Click on the first one. Oh, I did put them in the base. What was the other one we did today then? Oh, HUD. HUD doesn't really matter because it's all going to be HUD, but let's go ahead and continue what we're doing anyway. HUD. HUD. Okay, so we can go ahead and close those. What I am going to do now is I'm just going to implement a couple of these. And then I'm probably going to call it there because I want to try and keep this one short so that the next one is follow on short. Then I will be doing the next video straight after this, so you'll probably get 2, maybe 3 out this week on this series because there's been a bit of a delay. Cough, so I couldn't really record. So let's go ahead and implement these. Go to our blueprints, go to our core blueprints. Let's open up our HC Crazy Cooking, which is our HUD. And we're going to go to our class settings, implemented interfaces. We're going to add our BPI HUD. Compile that, and there you should see our 3 parts there. And then go back to our content drawer. We're going to go to our blueprints, our character, open up our character, fast settings, fast settings. Okay, no interfaces at the moment, so we're going to add BPI. We're going to look for our player, compile, and there again, no interfaces, player. There's all the items we've got there. Okay, so the very last thing we're going to do today, I think we've got a little bit of time. We're going to open up our blueprints folder, for blueprints, and we're going to open up our BPFL Crazy Cooking, which is our function library. And one of the first ones, we're just going to make up some very quick helper functions in here. Okay. First one to call is get HUD. Open the right window might help. Get HUD. Okay. Has an input of our actor. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Has no input. And we're going to, first of all, we say get world context. I've made functions without this and they've worked, but there have been some cases where I've heard that if you don't put this in, your function won't necessarily work on a global function library. So let's, do it right. Then from here, get player controller. Index 0 is fine. Then in here, there's a function get hard. Now we have 2 in here because this is our own one. We want the blue one here. Okay. And we're simply going to swing that back around. Drop it on there, and that's going to give us a return. You can leave it as return value, but I like to rename them sometimes. And this one was called HUD ref. It gives our correct HUD that we're using in our game. Makes it pure, we don't need it to be executed, we're not setting anything. A pure is like these green ones, okay? The other ones are the blue ones. Okay. And actually, just to show you that, if I say get hard, you see now we now have a green F. Click it. Obviously, you wouldn't run that inside its own function. And compile on that. This one is another one we're probably going to use quite a lot. So let's get ahead and do that. And we're going to call this div data asset. Let's open it up. This has an import actor ref, and it is of type base. Let's do it properly. BPP underscore base. You find it if you name it correctly. And we're simply going to drag off of here and say get data asset, because this is our one that we saved up, so we knew that's here. Return that to there. Simple function. Again, it's a pure function. So click on the function here. Make sure you click on pure. It doesn't matter whether you don't set it as a pure function, it just makes it easier in a lot of the code and for you to follow the code if you do it the same way as I have. Okay. Now this one, see whether we have set up our interfaces properly. And this is called give interaction message. Has an input of an actor. Call it actor, and it's of type actor. Straight actor object. Then we drag off of the actor, and we're going to say get data asset, and it should come under the base because we put them in our categories. There it is. So the target is BPI game base. Correct. So we now know that we've got in here. We've got new parameter here. Let's just change that to what it should say. Then it doesn't matter really. This makes life a little bit nicer if they're named correctly. Make sure you compile it and right click here, refresh the node, and we've got the correct name. So out of here, we're going to drag out things. So we type in interaction, get interaction key, interaction message, and name. And we're going to get item names. We have 3 text outputs. simply going to drag them onto here. And that is it. Again, it's a pure function. We're not setting anything, we're just getting data. And the last one, really, call it unnecessary if you like, but it's something that annoys me when I'm working in UI and it has on here, so I often put this in a function library just to help me out. Not just in UI, can happen other places you need it. And it's convert linear color to slate color. Okay. As an input, I'm just going to call it color. And it's of type linear color. Now the reason I make this is linear color, if I drag this in, we have our little box here, we can click here, change whatever color we want. Okay. Slate color is just, it's a little bit more complex to set up straight off the bat. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have to put an output, and we're going to call it slate color. And it's of type slate color, so make sure you change that. Slate color. American versus English spelling going on here. We're going to drag off of here and we're going to say make slate color. Now you see it has a specified color. Okay, just drag that to there. That's simple, yeah. But you would have to have this node in a lot of things, whereas you could do it this way and just do it quite simply and quickly when you're setting it up. So you don't have to have like a double. You can. Some people say it's necessary. Some people, I like it. It's what I like to do. Up to you whether you use it or not. Okay, so we're done here. I'm just going to do something very quickly. Okay. So we are done there. And am I going to be using any of these now? No, because I am going to call this video here. Longer than what I expected if we've done this. And straight away I'm going to go ahead and record the next video where we will be making a HUD so we can see what's going on, importing some textures to use. I'm going to show you a quirky way of doing something. And setting up a first basic UI. After that one, I'm going to go ahead and record video number 3 for this week, which is the basic pickup. Maybe this week or next week I'll do the basic pickup. Let's see how it goes. So this is end of video 2 or part 2. If you like what I do, please hit that like button below, subscribe, check out my Patreon, Discord, buy me a coffee, any of those. Everything's appreciated. It all goes to help making content for the channel. Any comments, please be free to comment. Try and keep them constructive, whether you agree or disagree with what I say. But you know, If you don't agree, fine, tell me, but tell me why. Don't just tell me I'm rubbish. No, you're rubbish because, fine, I can improve. And let's keep it all family friendly though, please. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.